Welcome to Corroy-le-Château. It's a fortress built in the 13th century in order to protect the south of the Duchy of Brabant, and probably the most important in the Low Countries in the Middle Age. Donc bienvenue à Corroy-le-Château. Vous avez derrière moi une forteresse de famille qui date du XIIIe siècle et qui est toujours restée dans mon ascendance depuis l'an 1095. Alors nous allons entrer avec vous dans la maison parce que l'intérieur est totalement différent de l'extérieur. The interior of the house is completely different from the outside party. Here you see a fortress, and when you get in you will find rooms like in all the chateaux in Europe. It's furnished and adapted to the 21st century. Could you follow me? Sorry for the plane, but we are not so far from the airport of Gosselies. And here you see, just before the entrance, you have this building, the portal, the barbacane in French, which is a sort of a parade monument. It's for receiving the host, and before the entrance is just for the look. But in fact it was built in the 15th century, and of course you had some aspect of the defense, like the arrow slits on both sides, and also the different other parts of architecture. But the real entrance was in front of you. You see the two defense towers, and the uphold bridge was just in front. Here you had the drawbridge, here and there. Just after that, two arrow slits, the portcullis getting back from the first floor of the castle, and behind the portcullis the main gate, which was covered with iron of 600 kilos heavy. And when you went on to the courtyard, here you had a second gate, but it was taken off in the 16th century. The courtyard, sorry for the cars, but the house is inhabited, and you see all the buildings date back to the 13th century, except that the windows were created in the 18th century. Then you have the aspect of a classic country house in the courtyard, but in fact all those facades date back to the 13th century, except this one in the center, which we replaced a building destroyed by a fire in the 19th century. And of course you see immediately it's a neo-Gothic style of building. Well, now we are going inside. Now we will see the interior of the castle. It is a second aspect of the fortress. Here we are into the hall of the 19th century, and in front of you you have got the chapel. The chapel built in the 13th century, but redecorated in the 19th century in the neo-Gothic style. And what is amazing is that if you look at the ceiling, you see many members of the family, many friends, who are painted on the ceiling, and it's like if they were around a well and they received the visitors. This painting was made in 1987 by Anatoly Stolnikov and Catherine de la Bourse-Tirham. Now we are going to the dining room here. You see it's entirely covered with marble. Marble come from Italy in 1848, and you also have a lot of little objects into the showcase in front of you. With a lot of little objects and above all some boxes from Spa in Belgium, dating back to the 17th to the 19th century. And the ceiling of the dining room was painted by Jean Roby, a painter of Belgium, specialized in flowers and scenes of hunting and so on. That was made in 1848. Now we are crossing over the saloons. The first saloon is interesting because you have splendid paintings of the 18th century. They were made for a Brussels house and transported here in the 19th century. And they show scenes of the daily life of small arbors in Zealand and in Flanders around 1775. And you have also a furnishing of this period, but everything is mixed here because it's not a formal interior. But if you have a look at the details of all those paintings, you see exactly how the common life was at that time. You had the boat coming back from India, the activity of people who imported wine from Bordeaux. People here came for buying some clothes of East India. And on this side you have the fish market with all the details. Over there you see a part of the fair, young people playing around a carousel, and also on this corner a gypsy saying the future to young people. On the other side, it's another aspect of the arbor with the people who are dancing in front of an old house. And on this side, you can see people playing with iron shoes that was used in Flanders in the 18th century. Here behind you see a water mill when all the activities of that time, and before it you have this clock dating back to the 18th century. Now we go on into the main salon of the house, and you see different objects. Some are rather amazing. For example, the great painting on the wall represents members of my family in 1780 in a castle built in the north of France at that time. And amusing detail, the young boy with a pink gilet is next to her aunt, and she's a princess of Crouy. And this family thought at that time they were descendants from the kings of Hungary. And on the map of Europe, she's showing with her finger the Hungary, the country of Hungary. And you have a lot of different objects here. It's just Salon, like you can see everywhere. And now we go on. In this staircase, I've put a lot of family portraits, a little older than the other ones. They date back to the 17th and even the 16th century. For example, that is very rare. You have the plates of Jean de Trazegnies, Knight of the Golden Fleece at the time of Charles V. It remained here with the coat of arms. And in front of you, you have a canoness, Dutch canoness, the beginning of the 17th century, in a clothes which is very special because all the canoness of Nivelles at that time had to have a sort of uniform. We are getting into a salon, it's also a mixture of different periods. And in the vitrine, the showcase over here, you see a lot of little objects like in this one. I like putting a lot of little books, silver things, porcelain, china, and so on, together because that gives some life into the house. This is a clock made by a French, Michel-Ange Paulet, in around 1851, and it represents the dawn going out, the devils of the night. And there are 3 other clocks like that in the world, and one was made for Empress Eugenia, wife of Napoleon III. And behind this room, you see a tower transformed in the 18th century. And what is interesting here is the floor, because you have a beautiful design like on the floors of Versailles. But it comes probably from a Brussels house, like other parts of the furnishings here in the house. But you see here how a tower of defense was inside, and the windows were enlarged in the 18th century. This room is nicknamed the smoking room, even no person in the house smokes, but it's a charming and cozy home. And we are against, along the defense wall, then the room is tiny, and in front of you have a beautiful painting which represents the Judgment of Paris by André Lens, a painter of the 18th, 19th century in Belgium. And many little things and interesting paintings as well. And now we are going to the hall, which follows. Here you see different portraits. This one was made in 1839. It is my grandmother, painted by François-Joseph Navet. On the top of the staircase, you see the portrait of the Marchioness of Herzl, née Trazegnies, who was beloved by Empress Maria Theresa and by Joseph II. We have kept here many letters from the Empress and the Emperor. And on this side, I let you have a look on this charming painting by Winterhalter, the painter of the royalties in the 19th century. And it represents Princess Hélène Sangusco. And behind, next to her, the portrait of Lord Carrington by a pupil of Lawrence. This is our private dining room with 2 tapestries from Brussels in the 17th century, and the chairs come from the Dutch part of the Low Countries. If you want, I can show you into the cupboard the china which is kept. See all the plates and so on, and the parts of the service. It is the time of Queen Victoria. It's Wedgwood porcelain. And now we are going back to the Middle Age. It's strange, but you are here in the part of the castle which was included into the building in the 16th century. And you see the defense wall, the tower included into the building. Come here, you see the walk around for the soldiers in the Middle Age. The soldiers got out the tower and walked on the wall in order to go to the main Châtelet d'Entrée, which was the center of the defense in the Middle Age. Let us get up to the gallery on the first floor, It's a long gallery which was made in the 18th century, and it was very simple. But my parents, when they transformed the castle in the years 50 of the 20th century, discovered that the beams behind the plaster, and the plaster was in very bad state, the beams looked interesting. And they took off the plaster and they transformed this room into a gallery like at the interior of a boat, you know, a boat upside down. And you see the gallery. It's used for organizing concerts or theater play here. And all the coat of arms on the walls are family coat of arms, or family died out into the mine. And they date back to the 16th century, some of them, 18th century for the other ones. And it was people call a bit that was put on the catafalque for the burial, the funerals, and with the coat of arms of the person who had died. And on the other side, you see what I described downstairs. You see the door of the tower of defense and the place where the soldiers walked in order to go on the other side to the Châtelet d'Entrée, the center of the defense. Here, a little corridor going to a bedroom into a tower, and it's decorated with genealogies dating back to the 17th or to the 18th century. And when we are going on, we will cross over a bathroom, but behind you will see a room like it were in the Middle Age. Here we are in the guest corner, and the corridor and the bedroom for the guests. And we are going now again to the main hall. Normally this is not open for the visit. The drake is a gift given for my birthday some years ago, and it's made by Thierry Bosquet, who is a famous painter in Belgium. Now we are into the chapel with the vaults of the 13th century and the decoration of the 19th century. But you see here how it was in the Middle Age. The level of the floor was this of the 18th century, but at the origin the level was downstairs, and you had a very high elevated chapel. And here on this level you had the tribune of the Lord. The Lord came from the main hall, the great hall of the castle, through this passage of the Middle Age. You see how it was at that time. And on the other side, he could reach the walk around and the staircases of the defense towards the southeastern tower. And inside you have also a second staircase going to the system of defense up to the chapel. And it was used also for escaping from the castle if it was attacked by surprise. This movie was conceived and achieved in the frame of a project of the European Historic Houses Associations. The name of the project is the House of the Month.